The streets of London blazed with torchlight on that autumn day in 1553, but no flame burned brighter than the triumph in Mary Tudor's eyes as she rode toward her destiny. The daughter of Henry VIII, once declared a bastard, now returned as England's rightful queen. The crowds pressed against the wooden railings, strewing rushes and flowers before her horse's hooves, their cheers echoing off the timbered buildings like prayers answered after decades of silence. Who among them could have guessed that this moment of jubilation would herald some of the darkest days in English history? "God's holy grace has delivered us," Mary proclaimed to her people, her voice carrying the weight of both victory and vindication. But behind her public face of triumph lay shadows deeper than the Tower of London's darkest cells. For this was a woman forged in the fires of betrayal, shaped by years of persecution that would ultimately transform her from beloved princess to feared monarch. To understand Mary's reign, we must first return to the child she once was, the pearl of her father's world, his precious princess, until ambition and desire tore her family apart. At age 17, she watched her father cast aside her mother, Catherine of Aragon, for the younger, more alluring Anne Boleyn. "I account myself for nothing," Mary wrote during these dark days, her words heavy with the pain of rejection, "and my mother as nothing, who has suffered 20 years or more." The psychological wounds cut deeper than mere political machinations. Mary was forced to serve in the household of her infant half-sister Elizabeth, designated a bastard by the same father who had once showcased her accomplishments to foreign ambassadors. She was forbidden to see her mother even as Catherine lay dying, their only contact through secret letters that read like prayers between martyrs. How does a child survive such systematic dismantling of their world? For Mary, the answer lay in her fierce Catholic faith, which became both shield and sword. Hampton Court Palace, where Mary had once danced as her father's cherished heir, became a prison of sorts, its long galleries and richly tapestried walls bearing witness to her transformation. The girl who had once been praised for her gentle nature hardened like steel in a forge. "I would rather be a beggar and true than inherit all the riches of Europe with falsehood," she declared, refusing to acknowledge her father as supreme head of the church. The years of Edward VI's Protestant reign forced Mary to practice her Catholic faith in secret, each forbidden mass an act of rebellion and devotion. When she finally claimed her throne, was it any wonder that religious restoration became her driving mission? "I cannot tell you," she wrote to her cousin Charles V, "what consolation it is to my soul that God has given me the power to restore his true religion." But power, once tasted, has its own terrible momentum. The first burnings at Smithfield came in 1555. John Rogers, a Protestant preacher, his flesh becoming ash as Mary's new husband, Philip II of Spain, arrived to claim his crown. The smoke from these fires would stain London's skies for the next 3 years, claiming over 280 lives. Each execution was, in Mary's mind, an act of mercy, better a brief earthly agony than eternal damnation. Yet how much of her zeal was born of genuine conviction, and how much from the scars of her own suffering? Her marriage to Philip reveals another dimension of Mary's tragedy. Here was a woman approaching 40, desperate for the heir that would secure both her dynasty and her religious reforms. The phantom pregnancies became a metaphor for her entire reign. Hope and desperation intertwined, reality falling short of desperate dreams. Throughout these years, the shadow of Elizabeth loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. Mary's relationship with her half-sister was a complex dance of affection and suspicion. When plots against Mary centered around Elizabeth, did the Queen remember their shared childhood games, or see only Anne Boleyn's daughter, the living embodiment of her own fall from grace? The Tower of London, where Mary had once been imprisoned herself, now held her enemies. Through its ancient windows, she could perhaps see her own past reflected in the faces of the condemned. But the fires she lit to purify her realm cast shadows that would darken her legacy for centuries to come. As Mary lay dying in November 1558, the smoke from Smithfield had finally cleared, but England was changed forever. Her chambers in St. James's Palace became a temple of regret and fevered visions. Did she see, in her final hours, the faces of those she had condemned? Did she understand that her attempts to restore the old faith had only strengthened the new? "When I am dead and cut open," she reportedly whispered to her ladies, "you shall find Philip and Calais engraved on my heart." The morning of her death, bells tolled across London, not in mourning, but in celebration of Elizabeth's accession. Mary's body was interred in Westminster Abbey, and with her died the last hope of Catholic restoration in England. Yet her reign left lasting marks on the nation's psyche, raising questions that echo through the centuries. How does persecution shape the persecutor? Can trauma explain, if not excuse, cruelty? Where is the line between conviction and fanaticism? In the end, Mary Tudor was neither the saint her supporters claimed, nor the monster of Protestant propaganda. She was something far more tragic, a woman shaped by trauma into the instrument of others' suffering, a queen whose fierce devotion to her faith both inspired and destroyed a daughter seeking her father's approval long after his death. Her fires may have burned out centuries ago, but their shadows still dance across the pages of history, reminding us that the path from victim to victor is often paved with the ashes of others. We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comments what historical figures you'd like us to profile next. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like these.